Well, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at. And if you're on the West Coast, it is 9 o'clock in the morning. And excited to be with you here this morning. I got to tell you, I would like to have confirmation in the text chat that you can hear me so that as we start, I'm not talking to the wall. Loud and clear. Excellent. Love to hear it. All right. Guys, my wife and I had a singular experience this morning. Jennifer says, I can't hear you. Am I on mute? Well, and you might be because other people can hear just fine. My wife and I had a singular experience this morning. We're getting ready to move to California, which we're going to be doing in a couple of months, retiring and moving down there. And so we moved everything already down there, and we're staying in what amounts to is a really nice Airbnb for a couple of months. And we have two very large picture windows in this Airbnb that both look out over Lake Sammamish. Lake Sammamish in the state of Washington is an absolutely gorgeous lake. I've been playing on this thing since I was a junior in high school, actually earlier than that, water skiing and boat and all kinds of boating activities. And it's been a wonderful place. We're lucky enough to be living here right now. And if I turn this around, you can kind of see out that picture window. It's very bright. Sorry, it kind of distracts the camera. But we woke up to a sunrise this morning that was remarkable because there was a low cloud cover. High, it was kind of high. I shouldn't say low. It was kind of high, but it was a solid cloud cover. So, the reason that you get sunsets is that you've got some clouds. And as the sun goes down, all of that light is trying to work its way sideways through the clouds. And as a result, the only thing that gets through as it goes lower and lower are the darker colors until you get to nothing but red, the reds and oranges. They're the only color wavelengths that can make it through. Well, that's the way you make a sunset. A sunrise often, very rarely has that same effect, but this morning it did. And we had some of the most vivid, beautiful orange and then turned red colors all through the sky, highlighting those trees you saw bouncing off the water. It was spectacular. And it just reminded me that, regardless of the politics, the market conditions, the world conditions around the world, I consider it a blessing every single day to wake up. I really do. I don't care what the circumstances are. Every day above ground is a good day. One more day to try to work out your whatever you believe your mission is to here on Earth, to have some value. You get one more shot at it, one more opportunity to express love to people that you should express it to. Maybe extend forgiveness, maybe repent, i.e. apologize to somebody that you've been resisting. You never know how many more of these you're going to get. And when a morning starts out the way this one did, boy, that just smacks you upside the head and says, you better pay attention and appreciate what's going on. Well, Jennifer, I'm glad you got something figured out there. Sorry, I don't know what's happening with your audio. She's listening to it on the phone because the computer, it won't work. But I think the tech may be trying to help you out there. I hope that works out. Anyway, it was just a stunning, beautiful morning, humbling morning. And I appreciated the reminder. I really did. Well, as we begin here, I am going to share my screen with you and take you through what I think is going to be a great morning. Let me make sure that this is the right one. Yep. All right, so we will start, whoops, get back here. There we go. All right, so give me a quick confirmation that you can see the screen. It should have my picture on it. It transitioned over. Yes. All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, thanks, Marty. Guys, our disclaimer, we go through this every time we get together, and that's simply because we want to remind anybody that's new that if you happen to get on here thinking that somebody is going to give you a hot tip for the day, not going to happen. Wait, of course, I hope it happens. I hope I can give you a lot of hot tips. It's just they're not going to be tradable tips. They're not going to be specific instruction or guidance on any particular stock or security. Those things are your decisions, your choices. The market has risks. And this is educational, this is training, this is for your benefit, but it is not to supplement your research and your ability to make decisions on your own. The market has risks, always has risks. When you have funded trades, you need to be aware of that and trade accordingly. And you should be constantly trying to train and improve your skill level so that you can minimize that risk simply by being a more educated, experienced trader. You got to survive the process to become an experienced trader. Well, I guess maybe that might not be true. I suppose if you died financially in the process, that would give you some experience, but you're not going to be an active trader with experience if you don't survive. So that's my best advice. And so as we get going here today, please recognize that my intent is to help you understand more about some of the skills and the principles involved in trading. Again, I get a little philosophical. And that's simply because it has played out in my experience. And you'll hear that from other experienced traders, especially folks like Rob, who will endorse pretty much anything that I have said to you. I expect that there's not any disagreement with anything that I will ever say to you, because Rob and I are coming from the same place with a lot of experience that has come from surviving, right? And so I appreciate him more than you know. I hope you fully appreciate what it takes to produce the content that Rob does and to take advantage of it. I really do. There's your calendar. Pay attention to that. And speaking of which, we have Trading You coming available to you in a digital form, right? Your ability to participate in this live through the digital platform, and also to get content that you can review afterwards. It's fantastic. It really is. So Rob, hats off. Stay healthy. Bless your family. God bless you and your family, your awesome family. And let's get going here. Our subject today is going to be a bit of a throwback from a year ago. I want to cover some material that I touched on and updated. I hope for some of you it'll be a little familiar, because I'm a firm believer in the educational model that says that you have to go over the same material having an aha experience 5 to 7 times before it is internalized and becomes yours. 5 to 7 times. Imagine that. And if you think about your own life experience, you'll realize that what I'm saying is true, although you may not want to admit that. You mean I have to go over something 5 to 6, 7 times before I'm actually going to have it stick and be part of my lexicon, just be part of who I am, and I know that for the rest of my life? Yeah, you do. You do. And that should not be a strange thing. When you think about your own experience, think about raising children. There's no doubt times if you had children where you gave them some wonderful advice, only to hear in your own mind, in the back of your mind, going, yeah, that was good advice, but I'm sure we're going to be going over that one a few more times. Okay. Even if the child says, yeah, I get it. I get it, Dad. I get it, Mom. Thanks. Thanks. You really helped me out. And you're going, yeah, we'll see. I hope so. But it takes 5 to 7 times before you internalize something. All right. It just does. So we're going to talk about some of the influences that happen in our brain, in our head, in our subconscious that impact trading. And there's some real world applications here that you can learn from that will help you. Bear with me, follow me on this process. I'll take you, as I often do, we'll start going one way, and then we may take a side trip. We'll make a detour, a sidebar, and we'll go out and we'll cover some things, but we always come back. We always tie us together. So if you're new, pay attention, but also be patient and just try to stay with me here. Let's talk about some of the emotional aspects in our life that might impact trading. First of all, fear. The market refers to, I shouldn't say market commentaries often refer to fear and greed as the things that drive the market. I vehemently disagree with that. I really do. I don't care who says it. I don't care how much money they've made. Just because they've made a lot of money doesn't mean that they understand the principle. They can be totally off or partially right. And because they're partially right, they think they're all right, but they're not. And I'm saying that very confidently. Okay. And I can back it up. I'll bring you the receipts. Fear and greed. I submit to you that there is only one emotion that drives people's behavior in the market, and that's fear. It's not greed. I would submit to you that if you define greed properly in its context with the market, that you will find that it's not a separate and distinct thing. I'm going to do a little test. Please get on your keyboard and help me out here. When somebody says that person was acting greedy, what did they do? Just, you don't have to type a paragraph, but just a few comments. What would greed look like? Please type. What does greed look like? If there is such a thing as greed in the market, what does it look like? How do you describe it in just a few words? What does greed look like? Come on, I know you're typing. Hit send. Somebody hit send. Let's read a few comments here. What does greed look like? Fear is something that I think everybody agrees with. I'm taking issue with greed. Okay. What does greed look like? Wanting more than is needed. Okay, but what does that look like in trading? What if I want more than is needed? Who's to say how much is needed? Michael, flesh that out. I appreciate your comment. Flesh it out a little bit. Jennifer says, trying to squeeze out every penny that's possible to be made in the trade, or every penny timely. That's greedy. What if you're losing money, Christina? Not executing the trade, would that fit your definition, or do you want to qualify that as not executing timely when you're making money? I'm just asking to think a little bit more. Brenda says, in the trade. I'm not sure what that means. Give me more. Michael says, going beyond the risk tolerance to get more. Okay. I like that. So greedy is going beyond your risk tolerance to get more. Okay, these are good comments. So let's use these. If there's more, keep them coming. But let's use these to talk about it. I'm going to start with Michael, who was first. So Michael says, going beyond their risk tolerance to get more. So Michael, would that mean someone who says, I'm not willing to risk more than $500 on this trade, but now they're down $700 and they're staying in the trade because it's making money? No, if it's making money, how does that risk tolerance come into play, Michael? Let's see that if you're trying to make more, that means that you've gotten already what you should have. So you said, I want to make $500 on this trade. Now you've made $800 and you're staying in the trade. Okay, how is that reflecting risk tolerance? How are you going beyond your risk tolerance? Now you've destroyed your risk parameters. There's no risk. If you wanted to make 500 and you've made 800, your risk parameters, if you set them up, are still there. So you see what I'm saying? So I'm just asking, just keep thinking, keep writing. Michael, there you go. Perfect. He says their experience of winning overcomes the fear of losing when they are ahead. Okay, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. So before I address anybody else's comments, I'm going to put out my thesis here, my proposal. I believe that there is only one emotion. It's risk, or it's fear. Greed, when you look at it in trading, I have yet to have anybody define or describe a condition of greed that I can't redefine as fear. If somebody stays in a trade too long, why did they do it? Could they be afraid of something? And the answer is yes. If they stay in a trade too long, it's generally because they're afraid of losing out, not losing the money that they've got. If they were afraid of losing the money that they already have, they'd get out. They'd close the trade. If you really were afraid of losing the money, now you got $800 in your favor in this trade instead of 5. You were hoping for 5. It's now 8. Why are you staying in the trade? Because you are afraid that by getting out, you might miss out on 1,000. or 1,200. I mean, the way this is going, maybe I'll make 2,000. And if I get out, I'll miss the opportunity. Well, you're being greedy. Okay, you can call it whatever you want, but it's fear. It's fear of missing out, FOMO. It's one of the most powerful sales closing strategies, is to set somebody up in a position where they are afraid that if they miss this opportunity, if they skip this, if they don't say yes to you, they are going to miss out on something. That's fear. That is not greed. I mean, you can call it greed, but I say that every aspect of greed that you can define in the market can be redefined as a manifestation of fear. Christina says, you stay in the trade when you have reached your goal, trying to grab as much money as possible. Is that greedy? You can call it whichever you want, but why are you doing it? Well, they're greedy. No. They're afraid. They're afraid. There is no guarantee by staying in the trade that you're going to make more money. There's no guarantee. Your subconscious knows that. But you also have another fear that is driving this, and that is, if I get out now and it keeps going, I'm going to feel terrible. Okay? When a trade is going against someone, it triggers the same fears. If I get out now, it'll probably bounce. If I get out now and this thing rallies back up, I'll feel worse than if I stay in and take a beating. The fear of losing, the fear of missing out can be stronger than the fear of getting beat up. I'll give you a case in point to prove it. Please tell me if you can relate to this, and you're not admitting anything bad. You've either seen it or you've seen other people go through it. But how many people understand that it is a real thing to have a trade go against you, to have a gut-wrenching, horrific experience as you watch the last 3 days of your trade wind down, and it gets worse and worse. You're down 1,000, now you're down 1,100. You got 5 minutes left before expiration, and you're waiting, and it drops to 1,300, and you're going, oh my gosh, you're in agony. And suddenly the market closes, the bell rings, ding, it's over. And the expression on the face, the emotion that is exhibited is it's a relief. It's a relief. It's like, oh my gosh, that feels so much better. Can you relate to that? Or have you seen that? Or do you believe it because you've heard others you trust say that that exists? Guys, I'm here to tell you, I can bear testimony to that. And I can tell you that I have seen it in many, anybody that I've known personally to any degree as a trader has gone through that. And they'll go, oh yeah. Okay. Marty says, I've been there. Everybody's been there. If you've been a trader for very long, you've been there. And why do we do that? It's the same driven emotion that keeps you in a trade, hoping that somehow, I mean, guys, here's the dialogue. Uh-oh, trade went against me. When it's down 200, I'm supposed to get out. But, there's still 2 days left on this trade. And the market's been moving around. So if I get out now and it rallies up in the next 2 days, I'm going to feel terrible. I know I'm supposed to get out, but there's still time. Let's give it just a little bit. Now we're down 250. Oh, shoot. Now we're down 300. Ooh, gosh, maybe I should get out. So you look at the trade again, then you look at the calendar and you go, well, there's still a day and a half left. And when I look back over the last day and a half, it's moved up and down. I mean, it could easily turn around and bounce back up. If I get out now, this thing will probably go through a cycle and wind up being back up, and I'll be back in the money, and I'm going to kick myself for getting out. So I'll give it a little bit more. Oh my gosh, it just went to 400. And now you're saying, okay. I get it. I got to get out. I know. I will. But as soon as it gets back up to where I'm only down 200, which was what my original tolerance level was, as soon as it gets back to where I'm only down 200, then I'll get out. Guys, you're making a Faustian bargain here. You deal with the devil. And I've seen people, I'm raising my hand, I have, and I've seen others, walk that thing down and just watch it spiral into the ground. And when the clock goes ding, 1 o'clock on the West Coast, 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock on the East Coast, the trade's closed. The option is now worthless because it is expired. And there's this huge sense of, relief. It's horrible. It's so unnecessary, and yet it is a part of human nature. The market works this way on people. It plays with their emotions. And I submit to you that a phrase that I came up with a long time ago is that it's true. And that is that the market only works if people fall into this trap. If nobody fell into this trap, the markets couldn't work. There has to be a yin and a yang. There is somebody on the other side of every trade. Somebody's making a profit, somebody is giving money up. To some degree, it's a zero-sum game when you are trading back and forth in contracts where there is a market maker who is matching up a buyer and a seller. Now, is it possible for the buyer and the seller to both make money? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But when you're trading back and forth in the market, you're trading something, and if it's bad for you, it could be good for somebody else, and vice versa. Or it could be good for both of you. I'm not going to go into those details. It could be bad for both of you, but it can be. The point is that the market plays on these deep-seated, deep core values and deep core fears, and that's the reason it works. Okay? Fear can paralyze. It's a learned response. If you didn't know it, you're only born with two fears. Everything else you've learned. Whatever you're afraid of, you learned how to be afraid of it, except for two things, and that is loud noise and falling. A baby, no matter who it is, if you drop them a little bit in your hands, the arms shoot out, they stiffen up. They're afraid of falling from the very beginning. And I'll tell you why in a second. And they're also afraid of loud noise. It startles. That's startling. Okay. The falling is simply a built-in mechanism for human beings who are going to walk around on 2 feet vertically, and they're going to be with their head above the ground, a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet above the ground. Should you lose balance walking around on 2 feet instead of 3 or 4, which would be a lot more stable, the fall could kill you. It could break hips, it could break arms, it could break shoulders, it could break heads and kill you. There is a built-in mechanism to avoid falling. All right, you come with it. Everybody comes with it. All right, everything else you learn. All the fears are learned, and the fears, as you learn them, become the strongest short-term motivators. I've heard people argue, which is stronger, fear or love? And you know what? It's not a contest of which is stronger. It's context. In the short term, fear is definitely the stronger motivator. Absolutely the stronger motivator. It's more intense. It comes on faster than those that come when we sense a reward. But in the long term, bonding, yeah, love, reward, it's powerful. It's powerful. But in the short term, if you put the two together and say who wins the first 50 yards in a race, fear is going to beat every time. Okay? Fear is going to win every time. Okay? So, fear can paralyze. It's a learned response. It's something you have to deal with because it will have an impact on your trading in the market. Now, let's talk about it in context. This is the statistics of worry. If you've never seen this before, you should write it down. If you've seen it before and forgot to write it down, you should write it down. Either way, you should memorize this, get this pounded into your head. 85% of what we fear is going to happen doesn't come to pass. Statistically, it's 85% plus or minus, right? I mean, but that's the area. 85% of what we are afraid is going to happen doesn't happen. And yet we worry about it, stew about it. We produce cortisol and other negative hormones and conditions and inflammation in our body worrying about something that has an 85% chance is not going to happen. And you know what? Here's human nature. Whatever thing you're going to worry about, you go, yeah, well, maybe that's true, but this one I really think is going to happen. Well, people say that all the time, and in the end, about 85% happen. 80% of what does happen. Okay, so the 15% that did happen, 80% of that is much less than what we thought it was going to be. In the end, statistically, my friends, about 3% of what we worry about actually happens as bad or worse than what we thought it might be. And yet we will expend so much energy worrying, reacting, developing cortisol, shortening our life, worsening our quality of health and life, raising our anxiety levels and our inflammation levels, worrying about something that has a 3% chance of being that bad or worse. Now, guys, those are nutty statistics. They should change the way we live, but they don't. It's something you can nod your head to and you say, okay, I get it. Yeah, that's right. But what are you going to do? You're going to respond to the emotions that you've been practicing since you were a little tiny kid. That's what's going to happen. Unless you have a mentor, unless you have somebody right next to you, your odds of being able to change this just because you saw these numbers, very small. Brenda says, is there a pill for this? Oh, man, I wish. And there might be some pills. I just wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't take them. So here's the thing. There's a principle in human nature, in human neurology, that is something you better recognize, and you better own up to this one. We tend to manifest that which we dwell on. Whatever you think about, you tend to become. So therefore, if you give yourself into the worry, you'll tend to make things really bad. Now, the thing might not happen, but you'll have big negative consequences because of all the worrying about it. And even if it doesn't happen, you'll still keep doing it because that's your pattern. That's your loop that you run in your head. The negative side of it is, as we have the great literary work, as a man thinketh, so is he. There's so many powerful lessons off that. It's true. He who hesitates is lost. Why? Because you hesitate when you ought to be moving. Something in you can't hesitate without having the counter exist. Otherwise, it's not hesitating. It's just numb. If you're hesitating, that means something is telling you move, move. Now, as traders, how many of you can relate to this? I call it the red forehead syndrome. How many of you can relate to slapping yourself with your palm on your forehead going, God, why didn't I go with the first thing I was thinking about? I should have gone with that. Why did I wait and do this or consider these three things and wind up doing nothing? I should have just gone with that first thing. Please tell me. Anybody besides me? Christina, yay, thank you, all the time. Marty says, me. Okay, yeah. Trip says, yep. Guys, that's human nature. You can't hesitate unless there was something telling you should have gone. Now, here's the trick. Without putting money on it, how about you try going with that first impression for a while? Maybe take the money off the table, reduce the trade size down to $10 or $20 or $100, whatever your tolerance is, that you can throw it away just to find out. Wouldn't it be interesting to know what your instincts are? Right now, most of you think your instincts are wrong because we make dumb decisions. We go, I keep making dumb decisions. But when you're hesitating, if you've got that red forehead thing going on, shouldn't you try to at least find out? Couldn't you find out? There's certainly a way. Why don't you go with your gut? When there's no real bad consequence, you don't have to worry about, gee, am I going to lose money or gain money? No. Just find out. Trip, you've been doing this a long time. Can you give me some thumbs up on this one? Because I know you've done this exercise. Has this helped your ability to trust your instincts or to doubt your instincts? Because it can be either way. What if you knew that your instincts were wrong? Well, then you don't follow your instinct. You do something else. But what if you find out that your instincts were right and you should have done with that first thing? How else are you going to find out? Trip says, I trust my gut a lot more now because I did this a few years ago. Guys, I've known Trip for a long time. I love him. He's an awesome guy. And I've watched his journey. He was my student for many years. In some ways, I hope he considers himself still my student. But, these are things that I've been passing on, trying to teach people for a lot of years. And those that do it always come back and say, I'm better off now because I went through that exercise to find out. Now I know what my instincts are. They're terrible. Okay, good. So now you know what not to do. That's a positive. Oh, I know my instincts are good. If I follow my first thought, if I just relax and go, what was the first thing that came to my mind and do it, I wind up doing much better. Great. Now you know. How else are you going to find out? Brenda said Tripp did that a few years ago. Yes, he did. Yeah. I can't wait. Is Brenda going, really? I can't tell. How would you know, Brenda? But no, I seriously, many years ago, Tripp went through this exercise. And I'm sure he's done it since. But guys, it's a powerful, powerful exercise, right? Find out. Don't be subject to this red forehead thing going, ah, dang, I should have done that first thing. I knew I should have done it. Guys, that means something was telling you and you didn't listen. Why? Because you hesitated. Why? Because you were afraid. You were afraid. Guys, the adage that practice makes permanent is the only way to say that phrase right. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect, but practice does not make perfect. It makes permanent. So if you're going to practice something, do it right. Well, how do I know it's right? Find out by testing. Test your instinct. Test your ability to follow a plan, even under pressure when the bullets are flying. Malcolm Gladwell showed very definitively that mastery, pure mastery of any skill you can think of, takes about 10,000 hours. It takes a while for pure mastery. Well, you don't have to have mastery in order to trade. You have to have risk tolerance and a plan that has risk management into it. If you can build a plan with good risk management, you don't have to be perfect. You can trade, but you have to have the strength of fortitude. You have to have the ability to have your brain follow the plan, even when fear shows up, even when things get crazy. I love the phrase that says, whatever man can conceive and believe, it can be achieved. I think that's true, but there's steps, there's processes that do that. Now, I want to introduce you to something that is very powerful, that ties in with what we're talking about, that I hope will be valuable to you. And you can use this, you can use this as an example to teach this principle to a lot of people. There are a lot of circumstances that I've been able to use this. Yesterday, I had a chance to teach this yesterday to a friend of mine. The Navy's 40% rule, Navy SEALs 40% rule. Don't tell me what it is, but anybody know what this is? I mean, if you're kind of reading over this, you'll start to kind of get a clue, but not on this first page. It comes later. But does anybody know what the 40% rule is for Navy SEAls? Again, just say yes if you do and no if you don't, and then we will explain it, because you need to understand this. You really do. Okay, so far, no. All right, great. Here we go. We've talked about this. Your subconscious brain, guys, has many functions, but it has one job. Your subconscious brain has one job, and that's to keep you alive, to make sure you breathe, to make sure you eat, and to make sure you reproduce, and to avoid high risk of dying. Okay? That's the job of your subconscious, to keep you alive. That's why you are born with the fear of falling. You need to have the fear of falling in order to learn how to stand up and how to be able to spend the rest of your life walking around on two legs, constantly in a state of falling. If you stand still, as still as you possibly can, you are still correcting for falling all the time, every second, multiple times a second, because your brain, sitting the highest away from the ground, the most dangerous thing to hit the ground in your entire body is the farthest away from the ground with the highest risk. And it is calculating whatever it takes to keep you vertical. Okay? Amazing ability in our brains to calculate and project. It can sense movements as little as fractions of a degree and start to make little micro connections with your muscles in order to keep you vertical. Okay? It's incredibly amazing. However, there is a gene in your head, if you're a young man, that does not form. It doesn't close. And in some young women, but mostly in young men, until sometime in their 20s, usually in the late 20s. The willingness to do stupid things that risk death slowly closes by age 30. So yes, your subconscious brain is trying to keep you alive, but there is a gene that correlates and values risk. And it is open. It is not closed, which means there is a wide tolerance of risk that is afforded to the activities and the behavior of young men that is not in young women generally, and certainly is not in older men. That's why young men fight wars. That's why young men can be talked into jumping off stuff. And that's why young men are famous for the phrase that says, dude, watch this. or here, hold my beer, watch this. The funny colloquialisms that are associated with young men doing stupid things. And that's because there is literally a gene that does not close in their brain that fully correlates risk or activity risk to death until usually by their 30s. I mean, there's some range in that. Some people go more than that, less than that. But somewhere in that young range, in the 20s and 30s, that fear gene closes. And then people are more averse to taking those kind of risks that could literally kill them. All right. And you probably understand what I'm talking about, either by observing or your own personal experience. Uh, Marty says, you tell me this as my son leaves for spring break today. That's hilarious. That scares the crap out of me, Marty. And I'm sure it does you too. You'll be, but fingers crossed. And oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. So that willingness to take risks is something that is real there. Now, let's talk about the Navy SEALs. Again, I say this shows up because you see young men fighting wars. Their older leaders tend to be encouraging from the back because they've been there and they're going, yeah, you go first. I've been there. I'll tell you what to do. In fact, I should be telling you what to do because I have been there, but you go first. I'll be back here because I need to watch everybody and make sure everything's okay. Right? That's just the way it works. Now, here's the way it plays out in your brain. When you feel, that's supposed to be exhausted. Sorry, typo. Why didn't it catch that? I don't know. When you feel exhausted and you believe that you cannot go on, the Navy SEALs say you're at about 40% of your capacity. When you believe I am gassed out, I cannot take another step, I will die, you're at about 40%. Distance runners call this breaking through the wall. If you've run, has anybody do that? I'm not a distance runner, but has anybody felt that euphoric explosion of energy when you think you're going to die and all of a sudden you get this amazing euphoric burst of energy and you just take off like you were brand new, like somebody gave you an infusion of adrenaline or something? Anybody run? Everybody runs a little bit, but has anybody experienced breaking the wall? Yes, no? Well, if you haven't, then we'll have to just take somebody's word for it because it's true. It really happens. Tripp says, yes, he's done it. Okay. It's a very cool feeling, right? Christina said, playing sports. Yes, exactly. When you push yourself to the point where you think you can't go on, but you want to go on enough, you push past that and suddenly you get this burst of energy. Guys, the reason that happens is because your brain, as incredibly powerful as it is, has the ability to calculate out in the future. And if you can see my hands, I'm reaching out to a point out in the future. Your brain can calculate that at this rate, if we keep going, there's a point out there we're going to die. Now, remember, the first job of the subconscious is to keep me alive. Therefore, when it says, whoa, at this rate, and you're keeping going, you're not slowing down, this is a problem. You keep going like this, we're going to die. So the subconscious says, my job is to keep you alive. Therefore, I've got to convince you to stop. And so it will throw all the signals, exhaustion, fatigue. It will shut down the ATP production in your cells, in your muscle cells. It will shorten your breathing. It will say, we can't breathe, we can't breathe. I'm going to die. It will tell you and signal you any way it can to get you to stop. It's trying to save your freaking life. And it's powerful. And you do think you're going to die if you keep going. And you will. It's just not yet. In fact, it'll be a long time. But your brain is saying, look, my job's to protect you. And I can see that you're heading for a ditch. So I'm going to put the brakes on. Guys, I hate it when I'm driving my car and the newer cars have got this driver assistance crap. And it starts to drift, and all of a sudden your steering wheel shakes and your wheels turn back into the lane. You go, whoa, 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 hey, I didn't need the help. Thank you very much, but I was okay. I don't like that, but that's what your subconscious is doing. It's shutting you down. It's saying, no, I'm determining that we're shutting the factory down right now. Okay, that's what happens. And so as you do that, you're faced with a decision. It really hurts to keep going. My brain is telling me I'm going to die if I do. I believe my brain, therefore you stop. Now, is it true? It's partially true. Will you die if you keep going at this rate? At the rate you're expending oxygen, will you eventually die? Yes, you will. But it's so far out in the future. It's way out there. It's just being proactive. It's looking out for you. Now, if you have somehow developed the fortitude to keep demanding, no, keep going, no, keep going, I'm not stopping, keep going. And if you're in sports, the game is still going and you think there's a chance to win and you are not going to quit, all of a sudden the brain, the subconscious will go, okay, I get it, I give, okay, I get it. You're right, we're not going to die right now. Yeah, okay. And so the subconscious then releases the production signal for ATP in the muscles. They suddenly come back to life. The red oxygenated blood cells flow more freely. Energy is supplies. Adrenaline gets a little tickle, and suddenly you feel like you broke through a wall. You feel like you've been reborn, and you're on the other side, going great, like nothing happened. Now, will you eventually die? Yes. And when you get close enough to it, your brain's going, yeah, I know. I can't fool you on that one. Yeah, it's a ways away. But eventually your brain's going to say, dude, it's like right now. And then you're going to have to decide, right? But the point is, and I'm going to tie this back in. So be patient with me here. It's very important. That fear was giving you a signal, but it wasn't a good signal. That signal that I'm going to die, it wasn't true. But how do you find that? You don't find that out till you push through it. You don't find out if you should follow your instincts unless you go through that exercise and try and risk it. The good news is you don't have to risk a lot of money to do it, but you have to go through the exercise. You have to go through it honestly. You have to push yourself past that fear to see what's on the other side. Nobody can tell you. And here's the deal with the Navy SEALs. They never, even though they're harsh during the training, but they never trash anybody who rings the bell and quits. I mean, it takes a lot to even get there. And then to try to go through that training, you can ask Navy SEALs and say, can you tell who's going to make it? And they say no. The instructors can't tell who's going to make it, but they can tell who's not going to make it. And who's not going to make it is almost always the big, strong athletes, the braggadocios, the real strong, muscular, outgoing, aggressive guys. They say, yeah, they're probably not going to make it. But there are certain people, when they are pushed far enough, will push through that wall. They will not quit. They will go almost to the point of really dying before they quit. Those are the ones they're looking for. And they can't find them unless they put them through that exercise. They can't find out who's willing to go beyond that, to break through the wall, until you push them hard enough to where they quit. They believe that message that says, I can't, or they push through the wall and find that, whoa, I can. That's who they're looking for. And they tell everybody else, hey, great job. You're awesome. There's a lot of things you can do. You just can't do this. The only people that can do this are the ones who will do that almost nobody else will. That's why so few are willing to do it. Now, tie that back into trading. It amounts to learning to stay calm when your brain is screaming at you to stop. Does that relate to trading? Yes, it does. It gives you the feeling that you're going to die if you keep going. This is true, but not yet. When you're in a trade and it starts to go against you, it triggers a fear response. It's a hormonal response. It's a whole body response. It tends to freeze people up. It tends to have them question and doubt. And he who hesitates is lost. People get locked up. They can't make good decisions because they're worried about what if. Now, the interesting thing is that they had a plan. And the plan may have actually said, what if, do this. If this happens, do that. If that happens, do this. But now they're in it and they can't remember because all they're feeling is what they're feeling. And they can't overcome the amount of fear, the feeling that is overwhelming them. And that's truly what it is. They're overwhelmed. They haven't learned to stay calm when the bullets are flying. How do you do that? You have to dose up to it. You have to do simulated trading that's real enough to create the emotions and that you can survive and learn. When you persist in demanding more from your body, the subconscious brain gives in, it releases the signal to fire up all the cells and you come back. When you can learn to stay calm when bullets are flying, then you can call on your reason, your ability to follow a plan. You can remember the things you've practiced. You can remember the rules that you promised, but you can't do it when you're panicking. That wonderful euphoric rush of energy that says, wait, I thought I was going to die. Now it's wonderful. You can only get that by pushing through the wall. As I said, one of the key skills that the Navy SEALs and all special forces use are breathing techniques. Here's a little fun tip. You cannot panic if you're breathing slow and deep. If you're breathing steady, slow, and deep, you can't panic. It's weird. You can't do it. You can't do it. So if you can practice, the 10,000 hours or at least a few to where under pressure, you can remember and you can deliberately slow down your breathing, go at a certain pace that you've practiced, do it calmly, then your brain stays calm. Now you can remember the steps in the plan that you were going to take. Now you can remember the commitments that you made. Now you can remember the practice that you did where you saw that this is actually true. And you're likely to call upon enough strength to go past your subconscious, which is trying to throw panic at you. Your subconscious is trying to save you. There's something to be afraid of. And it's saying, we're afraid. You got to be careful. Something could happen. It could cost you a lot of money here. And instead of freezing you, you can say, yeah, I know. Relax, calm down. I appreciate you. Thank you for trying to save my life. I really, really appreciate you. You do a great job when I almost tripped going down the sidewalk. That was great the other day. I love you for that. That's great. But in this case, just calm down. Wait. I'm going to breathe here. I know you're worried. I know. But let's just wait a minute. Have we seen this before? Oh, yeah, we have. Did we practice this last month? Yeah, we did. What was the result? Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, so if I was right then, I'm probably right now, right? So this is your conscious brain talking to your subconscious brain. And you're doing it by slow breathing, whatever format you want to use, 4 in, 4 out, in for 4, out for 4, in for 4, hold 4, out for 4, hold 4. There's a lot of different exercises, but that deep calming breathing can change your brain waves. And it can allow you to deal with the fight that you're going to have when you go through this exercise with your subconscious that happens when you trade and something goes wrong or it goes right. It goes so right that you weren't expecting it to go this good. It still throws you into a fear mode because now you don't know what to do. So much money, I don't know what to do. Should I get out? Should I stay in? If I get out, I'll probably wish that I had stayed in. If I stay in and it turns around and crashes, then I'm going to wish I would have got out. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And see, there you go, spinning off the rails. Breathe. Get up out of your chair. There's so many things I could teach you right now. This goes into a whole nother class. You get out of your chair, you walk around for a minute before you sit down. You ask a third party to come and listen to you while you describe what's going on. There's so many things that you can do, but you've got to learn to do them. Otherwise, the fear mechanism will kick in and it will overcome because it's there to protect you and it's very strong. And if you don't learn how to overcome it or at least deal with it and manage it, it beats you. Okay? When you take risk in the market, which is kind of a silly thing because you have to take risk in the market, it's got to be tolerable. When you do simulated trading, your risks have got to be in a range where it keeps it real, but it's not enough to hurt you, to kill you. It's like a vaccine virus where you kill the virus and then you put the dead corpse of the virus into someone's body and the body goes crazy about this foreign object and it builds a whole mechanism to fight it and beat it. And it did no damage because the thing was dead, but it still knows what to do. If it sees a live one, it knows exactly what to do. It's all prepared, right? It's that inoculation. But when you sim trade, you're inoculating. You're making the risk on it a little. It's not. You should never do completely unfunded simulated trades. They really don't do much. They really don't. You should have a little bit on there. And if it's not enough to sting a little bit, it probably isn't going to help you very much. If it's too much, then when you make mistakes, it'll hurt too much and it'll cloud your judgment. So you have to dose into it. You practice. Okay. Tolerable, yes. But what is that? Well, you have to kind of play around with it. It's comprehended when you realize it. When something happens, you go, that's not tolerable. Okay, at least I know. How about this one? That was easy. That was nothing. That didn't cost me anything. It didn't really register. Okay, dial it up a little bit. Make it $400. Ooh, okay, yeah, I don't want to lose $400. Okay, or I don't want to have $400 taken away from me if in a mistake, or if the trade goes against me. What's my tolerance level? You find it by actually doing it. You comprehend it when you realize it. So when you go from simulated trading or non-funded trades to funded trades, it can be tricky. That's why you practice this. You dose it up. And again, you can do non-funded trades, but go to simulated trades with a little bit of money as soon as you can. It really is important that you have at least a little bit on there, or it just is not going to do much for you. That transition between non-funded, which is the far left side, to the far right side, which is funded, build on success. Take little steps. When something starts to work, build on it a little bit more. See if you can put a little more weight on it. If the ice holds, put a little more weight on it. If it starts to crack, back off, right? How you do anything in the life is how you do everything. So if you're practicing checkers and then you take your board and walk into a chess game, it's not going to work really well. You've got to practice checkers to get good at checkers. You got to practice chess to get good at chess. So when you trade, your sim trading, your practice trading has got to reflect real trading. It's got to have some risk, but you can make that risk very tolerable so that you're not afraid to try, so that you can learn. And you can try the red forehead exercise and say, let's just follow my instincts for the next 20 days on some trades that are either non-funded or they are very lightly funded, because we need to find out. You know, if you've had that experience going, dang, I should have. Oh, I wish I knew I should have. I knew that I was going to do that. If you hear yourself thinking that, then you need to do this drill. Okay, you really do. Repetition will give you experience, but it's got to be survivable. Don't be afraid to downshift, back up. If it's going a little too crazy, back up. Take some pressure off, drop the size of the trade, but don't quit trading. I like to hurry up and go slow. Hurry up and get the experience. Go slow about funding. Go slow about funding, but hurry up and get the experience. And you can do that. You can do that. Brenda said, where'd my face go? I'm looking up there and I can still see my camera, my face on the camera, so I don't know. Christina says there's no sound. Not sure if it's just me. Boy, I'm sorry that a couple of you are having problems, but it seems like it's just a couple of you. Sorry about that. Last thing, guys, I want to put this up there, and I just want to leave you with a thought. I want you to close your eyes for just a second. Look at those words, redefine loss. Guys, I don't want you to use the word loss or lose in your trading. If you're closing your eyes, I just want you to imagine there's no such thing as losing in the market, because you should never lose it. You can lose your wallet. That's because you put it down and you forgot where it was. When you put your money in a trade, you don't forget that it's there and you don't forget where it is. If you leave the money in that trade, you're not losing it. You're giving someone permission to take it. If you don't want it to be taken, which could happen at any moment, you need to take it back right now. Can you do that? Yeah, close the trade, take your money back. But if you're going to put it out there, guys, if you're going to have it in the trade, you can't lose it. You're literally giving it away. Now you can put conditions, say, I'm going to put $500 out there and you can only take 100 because I've gotten a conditional order in there that if it drops from 5 to 4, it automatically, the 4 comes back to me. I'm going to yank it back. You can't take all 4. When I'm down 100, it closes and brings me the 400 back because that's my tolerance level. Okay, that's a rational plan. Keep your eyes closed. Think about that. There is no such thing as losing. There's no such thing as losing. You got to redefine that, because you're not losing. If you have $100 taken out of your trade of $500, is because you said, I'm okay with $100. That's the only way there should be any deficit of money in your trading account on any trade. It should only go down to the degree that you allowed it to go down in the first place. You said, if I put this trade, if I put this $500 into a trade and it goes against me, you can have 100 of it, but that's all. I'm taking the 400 back so I can live to fight another day. That's a trading plan. Is it a good one? I don't know. But the fact that there is a plan versus no plan makes it a good plan. Could it get better? Sure. I'm sure it could. How are you going to figure that out? You're going to practice it. You're going to do it over and over again. And when things are a little crazy, what are you going to do? You're going to breathe. You're going to learn and practice some breathing exercises. You're going to redefine losing. I didn't lose $100. I gave it away to somebody. Well, yeah, but I really wasn't, I didn't want to give it away. Well, then why did you say you can have $100? Well, I didn't really mean it. True. Oh, so true. That's another lesson you got to learn. It's funny when people put limits on there and say, okay, $200 down and close the trade. I'm good with that. That's my plan. Then it happens. They close the trade and they have 200 less dollars and they're going, dang, oh, and they're mad because they quote unquote lost $200. That's because you didn't believe it in the first place. You didn't believe what you said. When you said, I'm okay to do this trade, I could make $700 on it, but if it goes against me, it could cost me $2. If you really believe that, if it goes against you and costs you $2, it's no big deal. It's like, next, part of the plan. You were okay with it. If you find yourself wincing and going, oh, dang it, then that just tells you where you're at. You're not there yet. Keep practicing. Keep practicing. Lightly funded trades, a little bit of a sting. Find out what your instincts are. Find out if you can follow a plan under pressure. Dose it up little by little so that you can handle the emotion. Breathe so you can stay calm enough to remember what you're supposed to do when the crap hits the fan. And you'll do better at trading, guys. You'll do better at trading. Okay. Jennifer says, it's like you're in my head. Well, I don't know if you could say anything nicer. At least the way I'm taking it. At least the way I'm taking it. So guys, that's the wisdom that I have for you today. And I think that it's valuable if you will apply it. All right. I think these are recorded. Maybe you can go back and listen to it again. But there's some solid gold there. If you are willing to mine it, if you're willing to practice it, then you, like Rob and I and Tony and Trip, just to give you some examples, you'll be able to say, okay, I know what you guys were talking about. It is true. I've experienced it. You're right. You were right. You were right. Okay. There you go, guys. Have yourself a great day. God bless. Brenda said, is there supposed to be something under redefine loss? The rest of the page is blank. Yes, it is. That's why I had you close your eyes. It's a learning methodology. I wanted you to picture that. I wanted you to picture that whole thing in your head with your eyes closed so you're not distracted reading or making comparisons or getting distracted by something on your screen or your Facebook page over on the left on your cell phone, whatever it is. That's why I had you close your eyes. Jennifer says, thanks for the wisdom. You are welcome, my dear. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Brenda. All right, guys, take care. God bless. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.